We're talking about the most ravaged pantries in America. Well, actually, we're counting down the greatest brothers in NFL history. But isn't that basically the same thing? There are a lot of hardworking moms and dads with fantastic genes to thank for this list. So let's get right to it. JJ, TJ, and Derek Watt. If it feels like every few years there's a new Watt flashing across your TV, that's because, well, there is. JJ Watt took the league by storm, an All-Pro right out of Wisconsin in the 2011 draft. He was named the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in his first 5 seasons. JJ impacts the game like few have ever seen, playing nearly every position in the front 7, sacking QBs at a crazy clip, and batting down just as many passes too. In just his first 4 years, he became the first player with multiple 20-sack seasons. In 2016, the Watts became an NFL brotherhood when Derek was drafted by then San Diego Chargers. As a fullback, Derek set the tone for the Bolts' running game. They followed his lead block to huge success. He recently joined the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the youngest brother, TJ, was drafted in 2017. TJ is a quarterback terror in his own right. Both he and JJ were named All-Pros in their second season. TJ's 34.5 sacks in 3 years falls too short of JJ's first 3-season mark, but TJ has a knack like no other in strip sacking the QB. He led the league with 8 in 2019. Imagine being the mom of 3 behemoths running around all day for 20 years. To give you some insight into their childhood, the brothers recently started a game show called Ultimate Tag. Travis and Jason Kelce. The most athletic brothers in NFL history come from not only an unlikely duo, but even more unlikely positions. Jason Kelce entered the league in 2011 as an unheralded 6th-round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. He immediately became their starting center, paving the way for LaShawn McCoy's monster year. Since then, he's been named to 3 All-Pro teams and 3 Pro Bowls. Kelce was the captain and catalyst for the underdogs in 2017, when Nick Foles and the Eagles upset the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 52. Kelce makes the position look effortless, calling out adjustments before pulling as a lead blocker in open space. His athleticism allows him to absorb linebackers and create lanes for Eagles running backs. 2 years after Jason was drafted, the Chiefs selected his brother Travis in the 3rd round. The steal of the draft, Travis Kelce has had 1,000 yards receiving the past 4 seasons, the only tight end in NFL history to do so. Travis's rare blend of size, vertical ability, and speed make him a matchup nightmare for defenses. In an offense filled with dangerous threats, Kelce forces defenses to crowd up the middle of fields and double him every down. When they don't, he streaks up the spine of the defense for easy Mahomes TD passes. Kelce's second quarter against the Texans in the 2019 playoff game looked more like Calvin Johnson or Julio Jones, not a 3rd-round tight end. But Travis is anything but normal, and his 3 TDs in the quarter helped spring a 51-7 run. In the Super Bowl, Travis made key catches to help the Chiefs win their first Super Bowl in 50 years. The Kelces are the golden brothers of the NFL, and the only active brothers with rings to boast. Shannon and Sterling Sharpe. The Sharps show there are more than one way to become NFL legends. The older brother, Sterling, was highly touted out of college. He was drafted 7th overall by the Green Bay Packers in '89. Sterling broke the single-season Packer receiving record in his sophomore season, putting the world on notice. One of the toughest receivers we've ever seen, Sterling was willing to go into traffic and come down with it regardless of the hit he would take. When Favre hit the scene, he and Sterling had an instant chemistry. In 1992, Sterling had the best season ever seen from a receiver. He broke the catch record and led the league in yards and touchdowns. He followed his Triple Crown season by breaking his own receptions record. Just as he started being mentioned among the all-time greats, Sterling's career was ended by a freak neck injury. While we never saw Sterling's full potential, his brother was out there trying to make a name for himself. Shannon was drafted in the final round of the 1990 draft by the Broncos. The Savannah State loudmouth had a chip on his shoulder that drove him to be the best tight end the NFL had ever seen. He was constantly double-teamed and still became the first tight end to amass 10,000 yards. His impact made the 90s Broncos one of the best offenses ever and a team that won back-to-back Super Bowls. You can catch both the Sharp brothers on football talk shows, bringing their charisma to television like they did to the gridiron. Clay and Bruce Matthews. We finally made our way to the most rugged, toughest, and just plain scariest brothers in NFL history, the Matthews. Bruce and Clay played on opposite sides of the line of scrimmage. For over a decade, they even played each other twice annually. Sons of Clay Matthews Sr., Follow along. Clay was drafted highly by the Cleveland Browns in 1978. A tough edge setter, Jr. could sack the QB, stop the run, and even made some of the clutchest interceptions in Browns playoff history. Bruce entered the league in 1983 with the Houston Oilers. Bruce was immediately a franchise cornerstone on the offensive line and made 9 All-Pro first teams and a record-setting 14 Pro Bowls in his career. Bruce is arguably the greatest offensive lineman to ever lace him up, but Clay was no slouch either. After Clay's 19-year career, he is 3rd all-time in tackles and the oldest player to ever sack a QB. Football simply flows in the Matthews family blood. Both brothers' children played in the NFL. Bruce produced offensive linemen, Jake with the Falcons, Kevin with the Titans, and Mike with the Browns. As it should be, all of Clay Matthews Jr.'s sons became linebackers. Clay Matthews III was an All-Pro linebacker for multiple teams, and his brother Casey was drafted by Philly in 2011. We can safely say the Matthews family Christmas tree topper is a pigskin. Peyton and Eli Manning. The Mannings are football royalty, and that's mainly because of Archie Manning's 2 youngest sons, Eli and Peyton. Whether you need clutch plays, heroic comebacks, beautiful bombs, or even hilarious ESPN commercials, Eli and Peyton are the guys for the job. Peyton is the older brother, drafted 1st overall to the Indianapolis Colts in 1998. He brought the Colts from the pits of pedestrian to become the league's biggest threat. When Sheriff Peyton suited up, the Colts were the favorite. While criticized for his postseason success, Peyton brought Indianapolis their first Lombardi trophy. Perhaps Peyton's finest hour came when he was left for dead after neck surgery. He signed with the Denver Broncos and shattered every passing record on his way to his 2nd Super Bowl championship. Peyton retired a 5-time MVP, more than anyone else will probably ever have. But not to be outdone, Eli is at his best when the stakes are highest. While he doesn't have the accolades of his brother, he will always be remembered for his game-winning drive to defeat the undefeated New England Patriots in Super Bowl 42. They were 12-point underdogs to the perfect Pats when Eli evaded multiple rushers and heaved up what would be known as the helmet catch. His TD pass placed him into football lore. Perhaps Eli's best year was in 2011, however. Eli tossed 15 fourth-quarter touchdowns, shattering the regular season record. As he always did, Eli shined in the postseason. In 2011, Eli broke the postseason passing yards record on the way to a Super Bowl rematch with the Patriots. There, he did something his brother never did, win a 2nd Super Bowl MVP. His clutch sideline dime guided them to another Super Bowl game-winning drive. Remember when you argue that Eli isn't a Hall of Famer? He's one of only 4 multiple-time Super Bowl MVPs in the history of the NFL. For that, the Mannings are the greatest pair of brothers in football history.